You're listening to Mountain Heartbeat with Joe and Rosa Hopkins, proclaiming the gospel through word and through song.
We just sat down and bowed our heads, and we just worshiped the Lord.
Hello and welcome to Mountain Heartbeat. This is Joe Hopkins. A group was arrested in front of an abortion clinic in Louisville, Kentucky for sitting down in front of the doors to the clinic. This story has been featured in news outlets across the country, and today we're speaking to the man whose voice you just heard. His name is Rusty Thomas. He's the leader of their group, and we're going to get the story of what happened. Now, I do have to say the views and opinions stated by our guest in this interview are not necessarily held by the producers, Joe and Rosa Hopkins of Mountain Heartbeat, nor of the radio station, WEMM, or its affiliates.
So can you tell our listeners then what else happened?
Well, the police, who, by the way, were very kind and very respectful to us, and I will tell your listeners, when I say they did not want to arrest us, I mean they did not want to arrest us. In fact, they were dragging some of our folks away from the door and just letting them walk free. But our folks kept coming back and sitting down. And I had I've been doing this for quite some time, Miss Rosa, and this was one of my most profound conversations with the lieutenant of the police. And he kind of came walking up to me at the doors. He knelt down where I was sitting, and he said, I get this, Rusty. I'm a Catholic boy. And this was his way, I guess, of complimenting us. He said, this is a hell of a thing that you are doing. And basically, your witness is going forth powerfully. And so he proffered me this offer, which I've never had before, and that is, Rusty, would you be willing for us just to arrest you? Because I know you're not going to move from here. But we don't want to arrest the rest of your people. Would you be willing just to be taken and let the others go? And I said, well, in principle, yes. But I said, Lieutenant, these other people, these Christians, have wrestled, in the night and wrestled with God about crossing this line. And they have crossed it, and I'm not going to violate, their conscience and try to steal their sacrifice that they have made before God. And it kind of registered on him. He was shaking his head going, okay. And so they proceeded, with the arrests. And we went across the street, and, they did all the preliminary stuff, threw us in a paddy wagon, and they shipped us to prison or to jail. And again, treated us with the utmost kindness and respect. It was phenomenal. We had just tremendous favor. In fact, their statement to the rest of our folks, we never had a people that were arrested so well. And which is kind of a strange statement. I don't know if I should put that on my resume or not, but that was their comment. And then and so as soon as they booked us in, the venue of the ministry changed. We were no longer rescuing at the death camp, and so we began to evangelize in the prison. And lo and behold, 2 precious souls met the living God because we were in prison that day. And it was very profound, Miss Rosa. This one guy in particular named Tony, he was a Cuban boxer. He's pretty jacked, pretty intimidating guy. But by the end of the time, I got done witnessing the gospel to him. He was literally in my arms, sobbing like a baby, openly in front of all the prisoners and the prison guards. God just poured in His love and conviction, and right then and there, he surrendered to the Lordship of Jesus Christ. And of course, the other interesting thing, I guess, about the arrest was a lot of us are from out of state. Almost all of us were out of state, and they had released us under our own recognizance. And I got to tell you, that does not happen And so we just had found tremendous favor with the police department. Now, of course, there is an elephant in the room, and that is, how will the feds respond to this? And so that question remains to be answered.
And why is that? What does the federal government have to do with it?
Well, because of our effectualness back in the day with Operation Rescue, I mean, literally thousands of babies saved, hundreds of people led to the saving grace and knowledge of Jesus Christ, and literally hundreds of death camps that shut down. They went after us. The parole boards using the civil government just went after us, and we were facing two huge deals. One was RICO, where they were treating us like mobsters and gangsters, and we went through that trial for 20 years and eventually won that case. And when that was not effectual, they passed the so-called freedom of access to clinic entrances, where they will take a misdemeanor charge like we're charged with, criminal trespass, and apply federal penalties. And so back in the day, Miss Rosa, when we were doing this, we went as far as we could when they passed that draconian law. And in fact, at one point, some brothers and I were facing 4 counts of FACE, which translated into 10 years in federal prison and hundreds of thousands of dollars of fines. So for these 11 people, we had to factor that in. We had to weigh that before God. And so we've been preparing our families and our ministries, and again, just put it on the altar of God. And if that is what we have to endure to reveal the plight of these children, then so be it. There is such a truth as redemptive suffering. I don't have a martyr's complex. I don't like going to jail. But if God will use it to rally the hearts of men and rally and stir the hearts of his people to rise up in obedience to God to end this Holocaust, that is a price we're willing to pay.
And I am genuinely curious about where the idea came to specifically cross the line. Say, for example, instead of having signs and the sidewalk counseling and things like that, what is the difference, and why did the group decide to take this approach?
Because I think, honestly, Miss Rosa, and this is really important, and I spend a lot of time on the sidewalks, preaching and praying and ministering with signs and doing those things. And that is, to a certain form, still interposition. But there's a reality that is sometimes missing, because even with all of our great ministries and philosophies and strategies, how to end this Holocaust, sometimes we ourselves can dehumanize the children. And when you cross that line, everything becomes crystal clear. And what I mean by that, we serve a real God, and the Bible is really true. And there are real babies that are being ripped apart, and their heads are being decapitated. And we are really believing that once we cross the line, that God is going to use this to actually save their lives. It just brings, I guess, a more clear focus on the reality of this Holocaust, and it does have a profound impact upon the souls of men. When we cross that line, it's important that your listeners understand, I didn't do that to try to, recapture the glory days or do a publicity stunt or to even see a resurgence of rescue in these days. But, sometimes when we seek to obey God, we got limited understanding, limited ideas, and then God has his own ideas. Now, we did submit this to him. We gave it to him, prayerfully from a pure heart to glorify him and benefit these children. What I find outstanding, though, is we are hearing from this younger generation, and we are hearing from people of pretty significant influence that are so moved by this, it's like they want to see this restored. They want to see this movement reignited. And quite honestly, that was not on my radar. And so now I'm in a different position of seeking the Lord. Like, okay, now where do we go from here? As it has moved people to actually want to interpose again. And so that is a matter of prayer, Miss Rosa, and we just got to see how this is going to play out. But clearly, people are struggling. They are praying. They are seeking God, and it is having they're being emboldened. They're being empowered. It's like they saw the courage of other brothers and sisters, and they're encouraged by this. So we just got to trust God, how he's going to take this small sacrifice and lead his people to get involved in some significant way, even if it's not just, crossing that line and be willing to be, arrested or beaten up or whatever the case may be. But clearly, people want to do something, and for that we are eternally grateful.
That concludes our interview with Rusty Thomas. We thank you for joining us this week on Mountain Heartbeat, and you can find us again next week, same channel, same time. If you'd like to find Rosa's blog, you can find it on gutsychristianity.com. You can find our music on soundcloud.com/Rosa Hopkins, or you can find us on joeandrosahopkins.com. We certainly hope you would like to enjoy this and other fine programs on our SoundCloud account and on youtube.com/joeandrosahopkins. We'll leave you with a song off of our first album this week. It's called Give Me a Song to Sing.
Give me a song to sing, and I will sing it to the King. Oh, come, let us sing and worship him. Give me a song to sing, and I will sing it to the King. Oh, come, let us worship all day long. Enter to his gates, come, O ye with praise, come with songs of thanksgiving. Make a joyful noise, praises to the Lord, serve the King with all gladness. Give me a song to sing, and I will sing it to the King. Oh, come, let us sing and worship him. Give me a song to sing, and I will sing it to the King. Oh, come, let us worship all day long. Come into his gates, all whom God has made, he and not we ourselves. We are not our own, we to him belong, we the sheep of his pasture. Give me a song to sing, and I will sing it to the King. Oh, come, let us sing and worship him. Give me a song to sing, and I will sing it to the King. Oh, come, let us worship all day long. Bless his holy name, speak unto his fame, for the Lord he is goodness, truth forevermore, for his love is sure, and his mercies are forever. Give me a song to sing,